You're listening to the Ask Ava podcast, where we give real answers to real questions from teens and young adults about relationships, consent, dating, violence, and more. I'm Jessica Scoltetti. I'm an outreach and community engagement manager at Safe+Sound Somerset. We are an organization in Somerset County, New Jersey, offering free services for people who have witnessed or experienced dating, domestic, or sexual violence. And we work with children, teens, and adults. So today I'm really happy to introduce my coworker, Victor Peralta, who's also an outreach and community engagement manager. Hi, Victor.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, and thank you for inviting me to this wonderful podcast. I love to take part in every podcast that I can.
Great. Yeah. So we got a question from a group at a school within the last few months. So this question is, what if two people are fighting to date me? So I would just like to say right from the get-go, to answer that question is, you have a choice in this, right? Whether you want to date one of these people, whether you don't want to date either of them, whether you want to be friends, whether you don't like them at all and you want space, like, just remember that you always have a right to express those boundaries. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to do that and how to make you feel comfortable doing that. So Victor, I'd love to hear what you think.
It is your right to decide in a journey of whatever you decide to do, whether you want to keep them as friends, whether you want to label them as a boyfriend or girlfriend. You have the right to choose whatever is more comfortable for you, and you shouldn't feel pressured by anyone or bullied into any kind of decision making as to, well, he's my friend and you're the boyfriend. You don't have to do that. They could just be your friends. You can decide it to be the way you want it to be.
Yeah, it makes me think of a lot of TV shows and movies that we see. So like one that comes to mind for me right away is the show Friends, which I know a lot of people are watching still, many years later after it aired.
Me too.
Yeah, same. And if you think about Ross early on in the show, he's really struggling with his feelings about Rachel because they're old friends. He really likes her. He always has, right? But Rachel dates other people and he gets really upset about it. And, he says like, oh, I'm in the friend zone. Actually, Joey says that in an episode. Yeah. You're in the friend zone, right? And he's like upset about that. But like, what do you think, Victor, if somebody is upset about being in the friend zone, like, what would be like a healthy way to deal with that?
Well, they have the right to be upset, to be on the friend zone. That's their decision to be upset. But at the same time, if you choose to engage in a meaningful conversation with them, if they approach you, you can let them know and have a dialogue. Well, you are my friend, and I appreciate you as a friend. I'm sorry you feel that way, but it is not your responsibility to change your decision just because they are upset. What you can do is maybe give them insight onto why they're your friends. That's the way that I would, assume would be the best way. You can let them know why they're your friends. And if they're not happy with that, that's their decision not to be happy, but you shouldn't feel pressured into having to change your mind because they're upset. I mean, it is your right to label them as you feel fit and to look at them as friends because that's what they are to you.
I love that. And from our perspective, we work with teens all the time in schools and groups. And I've heard from a lot of people that they say that they're afraid to tell that person, right, that you're just my friend, or I don't want to date you. I'm not interested in you. I'm not dating anyone, like whatever that looks like. They're really scared to say that. And I want to say that that's totally valid. And I understand where that comes from. So maybe we can talk about like ways that you can cope with this. So like one thing I'm thinking right now is spending time with your friends, doing fun things that you enjoy, beyond telling those people, if you can, like, listen, I'm not interested, right? Or I'm only interested in this person. Who do you think, Victor, maybe somebody could go to talk to should they be dealing with this?
That's a very good question. I will say at the top of my head, you can. I would recommend reaching out to your friends, whoever you feel comfortable. Your father, your mother. If you don't feel confident in that, then maybe a school counselor. On some cases, depending on what type of relationship you have with your teacher, maybe you can lean on them, and they can advise you what to do. Or you certainly have the right to brainstorm about the healthy way of dealing with this. You shouldn't be going home stressed, losing sleep, or being depressed about this. You should definitely immediately seek out help in the format that I just mentioned to any of those group of people.
Totally agree. Trusted adults and friends, like those people could sit with you and like practice what you're going to say. Listen, I'm not interested in you, right? Like have someone practice with you some of that dialogue, and maybe you'll feel more comfortable telling those people to stop what they're doing, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
I also was hoping we could talk a little bit about when this gets worse, because unfortunately, we know that a lot of people get upset. A lot of teens will say, like, well, this person keeps asking me out, right? Maybe I've said no. Maybe I haven't said no. Either way, I don't know what to do. I'm nervous. I'm scared. So, like, I want to say, first of all, it's not your fault. Even if you haven't told them, like, of course, we want you to tell them, but even if you haven't told them yet, it's still not your fault that this person is making you feel unsafe. All right. I also think it's important to say, like, if this person's giving you more gifts, like really expensive things, or like trying to surprise you, or showing up at places unasked or uninvited, those are stalking behaviors, actually, if they're not wanted. So keep in mind that, like, again, it's not your fault that this is happening, but you certainly have the ability to tell them to stop. And if you're not comfortable, get someone else involved right away, because if you're feeling unsafe, you're probably right. Like, you know, something's wrong, right? Like, we know this in our bodies. This is actually like a real thing. So trust your gut and get someone else involved.
Absolutely. If you're feeling any of the symptoms that you just mentioned, that's a big red flag, and you cannot ignore it. You have to talk to someone that you trust,
Mhm.
whether it is inside or outside, as far as your networks, immediately, to get resolutions for those feelings. Because if you don't take action on it, in my opinion, you wouldn't want to know anything negative that may happen from that. Not to say that it would, but just to make yourself feel safe and have a network of people that can guide you the right way. I think that talking to your network will be the very best thing you can do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And I think it's also important to say that I don't know about you, Victor, but like when we watch TV and movies and we see like these competitions to get someone's attention, like what happens at the end of the episode, right? Like one of the person who's being fought over, they choose one person and it's like happily ever after. Everything's totally fine, right? But does that really happen in real life?
No, no, at least not for me, and probably most of us. No way. No, no, no.
Probably not.
No, 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 no. It's always going to be some kind of interaction in between that they never include in those movies and sitcoms and shows.
Hmm.
So there's always a lot of in between, and that's why I advise always never to keep it a secret. Always talk to your network, because they might actually be able to help you anyway. Uh, they might actually be able to talk to the person if you don't feel like talking. But the point is, never keep it a secret,
Yeah.
because it's just not healthy for you to keep it a secret.
Yeah, especially if you're feeling unsafe, right? Like the
Right.
reality is, like, how are you going to be happy with one of these people if you're feeling uncomfortable and, you can't be at school and just live your life, or at home or whatever, and, online. That's not safe for you or happy, right?
You're right. And also, if I may add, this might be of help too. Just you're not really responsible regarding the expectations that others have placed on you without you even knowing. You cannot read their minds, so
Hmm.
you're not responsible for that. you have to continue to be bubbly, happy, whatever it is your personality is. You have to continue to be who you are, and you should not be subjected to perhaps changing your personality because of perceptions that people have invented in their minds. You're not really responsible for that at all.
I love that. Like you are responsible only for your actions and words, right? Like we can't control what other people do, but we can control, we can control what we do. Like if I say, listen, I only think of you as a friend, that's something I can control, right? If that person chooses to go to the next level and keep bothering me, that's not my fault.
That's absolutely 1,000% correct. I'm not even saying 100, 1,000%. Yeah, it is. It is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to live your life the way you want to live it, and to continue on your journey without having to be of fear or outside forces that you have no control over. So.
Yeah. And to wrap this up, I would like to bring up one more thing that is really important, I think, to you and I, Victor, which is violence prevention, because unfortunately, we know that sometimes these situations do not end up in a healthy way. And I think some of this we have to speak up about, right? We have to speak up about nobody is entitled to you. Nobody is entitled to your body, to a relationship, to sex. Nobody's entitled to those things. You know, I'm thinking of a certain situation that happened at a college campus a few years ago, where unfortunately, there was a man named Elliot Rodger who decided to attack a sorority. And he made a video beforehand and talked about how he deserved love and affection and nobody was giving it to him. And he felt all of these emotions and decided to take it out on some of these women who had denied him these things. This is like some of his words, right? And like that turned out to be murder, right? Like I hate to bring it up, but it's true. So like we have to speak up about the fact that nobody's entitled to these things, right? We can only control our own actions.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. We have to always keep an eye out on our circle of meaningful activities and friends. And that is why when you determine that there's a red flag, like we discussed before, it should not be ignored because you never really know what can potentially happen. Not to say that it's going to be the case in every case, but we don't know that. And you have the right to the continuance of your life the way you have it, without anybody infringing any kind of harm or bullying your decision-making abilities just because of somebody's perception of what they want it to be. I know that was like a long...
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Victor, for having this discussion with us today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.